Hey folks, this is Rhykker with the Gaming News Wrap-Up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include Blizzard's statement on Diablo Immortal's monetization, more governments banning loot boxes, Ubisoft revoking access to the DLC you paid for, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below. But right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace. I built my website, Rhykker.com, using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself, quickly and easily and with zero education in the field, all thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. And now I built a section on my site where you can find all of my Diablo lore videos, along with quick synopses of each episode. Watch how easily I make this update. Squarespace is flexible for any kind of website, whether for your business or your hobby, with tons of templates that you can easily customize to your needs without any knowledge of coding needed. You can even connect your social media profiles to automatically push website content to your socials, and even set up members-only areas with exclusive content. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. So, head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Rhykker and use code Rhykker to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Rhykker to get started today. Let's kick things off with a viewer comment of the week. This week's comment comes from Asgard. No, not the city of the gods Asgard, home of Valhalla, but from a viewer named Asgard. In reference to last week's story about the creator of the new Monkey Island game having an adverse reaction to a flood of criticism and personal attacks following the reveal of the sequel's art style, Asgard said, quote, "Here's the thing about having a thick skin to work in this business. This used to mean being able to take criticism from your boss and other colleagues who work in the same industry. It has somehow morphed into being able to withstand ad hominem attacks from know-nothing trolls hiding behind screen names on social media forums." And I think Asgard is hitting upon something important here. You gotta have a thick skin is an expression that long predates the internet. Even today, the vast majority of people that get told you gotta have a thick skin aren't gonna be dealing with potentially hundreds and thousands of negative comments thrown at them. Most of the people saying you gotta have a thick skin have never been in a position to understand what it feels like to be mass targeted by trolls. But moving into the news, first off, we got a new trailer and a release date for God of War Ragnarok. The upcoming action-adventure game will release on November 9th. It's coincidentally the 9th installment in the God of War franchise, and I see a lot of people really hyped for this one. Sound off in the comments why you may or may not be. In other quick news, upcoming ARPG Last Epoch has opened up applications for multiplayer alpha testing. So if you're interested in joining their community tester program, you can follow the link in the description to sign up. Just know that you'll be under NDA, all top secret stuff that you can't share publicly. In other news, a Skyrim co-op mod, Skyrim Together Reborn, released yesterday. This is basically version 2 of the original Skyrim Together mod, and it's the culmination of years of work. Skyrim released in 2011. Heck, one of my first YouTube videos was a Skyrim video. It's been years since I've played, but I'm actually going to play this mod because adding multiplayer to Skyrim seems like a lot of fun. And yes, you can enable PvP if you want. If you want to check out the mod for yourselves, you can follow the link below. In some general gaming industry news, according to the NDP Group, US spending on games is trending to drop by 8.7% this year. This comes after the industry boomed during the COVID years, and the NDP Group believes the reasons for the drop this year include people wanting to go outside and do other stuff that they couldn't have done while being cooped up inside for 2 years. Also, higher food and gas prices are playing a factor. Less disposable income as necessities cost more. And the group expects this drop to occur across PC, console, and mobile gaming. They also expect the year to close with Elden Ring being the best-selling premium game in the US for 2022, which would be the third time since 2009 that the title does not go to a Call of Duty game. Want to guess which other two non-Call of Duty games occupy the other spots? Feel free to pause the video right now, reflect a moment, come up with your guesses. Okay, you ready? The games are GTA 5, and Red Dead Redemption 2. If you were right, shout it out in the comments. Honor system, I trust you. In other industry news, graphics card prices are dropping as the crypto market is basically crashing and crypto miners are forced to sell off their GPUs in order to recoup their losses. Since June 1st, retail prices are only down by about 3%, but eBay prices are down 14 to 17% depending on whether you're looking at current or previous gen cards. But this means that since January, eBay prices are down by 57%. And as for retail, well, in January you couldn't even find a card in stock at a retailer. Crypto mining was still profitable then, whereas now a lot of miners are likely operating at a loss. It's been long suspected that crypto miners were the main cause for the insane prices that GPUs hit over the past couple of years. So it's nice to see that graphics cards may be on their way to reaching affordable prices again. Hopefully. In some Bethesda news, the company has hired the lead technical advisor of Fallout London, a popular Fallout 4 mod, which is like almost every modder's dream. And it's not the first time Bethesda does this either. Roughly a year ago, they hired Fallout London's lead writer, Stephanie Zachariadis. And they also apparently tried to hire Fallout London's project manager, but after some very hard soul-searching, he turned down the offer. In other news, we learned this week that Blizzcon is returning in 2023 after having been cancelled in 2022. This was confirmed by Blizzard president Mike Ybarra in an interview with the LA Times. In the extensive interview, Ybarra also commented briefly on the criticism regarding Diablo Immortal's monetization. He said, quote, "When we think about monetization, at the very highest level it was, how do we give a free Diablo experience to hundreds of millions of people where they can literally do 99.5% of everything in the game?" He added, quote, "The monetization comes in at the end game. The philosophy was always to lead with great gameplay and make sure that hundreds of millions of people can go through the whole campaign without any costs." Now, one interesting thing about this statement seems to be the tacit implication that they did not ensure that people can keep playing after the campaign without any costs. Therefore, it's almost like saying that the expectation is that after the campaign, you will have to spend money. Now, I think this was a verbal interview, so people generally aren't picking their words super carefully in a verbal interview. It's not hyper-controlled PR language, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Now, Immortal just launched in Southeast Asia yesterday, but there's still no word on the launch in China, following the indefinite delay that happened a couple of weeks back. And after the game got an update this week, because Immortal is gearing up to start its second season, it seems that players with accounts from Russia and Belarus are no longer able to play Immortal on PC. For whatever reason, the mobile version is unaffected, and VPNs can still get around the region ban. And before anyone thinks that this is some good guy Blizzard move in protest of the war, the most likely explanation here has to do with sanctions that are preventing players from these regions from making purchases. In other news, Bungie seems to have partnered with NetEase to make a mobile game. NetEase was Blizzard's Chinese partner on Diablo Immortal. This mobile game is a shooter set in the Destiny universe, but it seems like it won't just be a mobile port of Destiny 2. The mobile game has been in development for years now, according to reports. NetEase invested $100 million into Bungie back in 2018, so the timeline works out. Meanwhile, in February of this year, Sony announced it would be buying Bungie for $3.6 billion. In other news, regulations on loot boxes continue to close in. The Netherlands is moving to pass a bill that bans loot boxes outright, not just regulate them, but ban them, following Belgium's example. The Netherlands also has strict gambling laws that even prevent gambling on things like Twitch channel point predictions. 6 political parties representing the majority of seats in the Senate have given their support for the bill, so this is likely to go through. In other news, Ubisoft, you know it's going to be good. Ubisoft is, in September, as of September 1st, decommissioning the online services for a bunch of their older games, which is reasonable. You can't expect them to keep servers on old games running forever. It costs money to do so. However, some of these games aren't all that old, and for many of these titles, in addition to the multiplayer not being available anymore, you will no longer be able to install and access DLC. Let me clarify, it's not you will no longer be able to purchase DLC, but the DLC you've already paid for, yeah, it won't be able to access it anymore. There's 15 games in total that are being decommissioned, including a number of old Assassin's Creed games, Far Cry 3, Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands, and others. One of these games is just a 3-year-old title called Space Junkies, which is a multiplayer-only title and will thus be unplayable as of September. The age of owning games is gone, sadly. Those EULAs that we all so diligently read, yeah, they say that we only own a license to access that content. We don't own the content. And that license can be revoked at the whims of the publisher. It's what we all agree to when we click through. And the sad thing is that it isn't even corporate greed at this point. It's not like they're trying to get us to spend more money. It's just apathy. They could put in some effort to create a workable offline mode for the DLC content, but why bother? There's no profit to be made there. Thankfully, the devs of Anno 2070, which is one of the affected games, have taken it upon themselves to do just that. They're working on upgrading the game's dated online server infrastructure to a new system so that it can keep running past the September 1st deadline, though they can't make any promises that they'll actually succeed. Still, hats off for trying. Figuratively, I'm not taking my hat off. But as for the other games, well, you want piracy? Because this is how you get piracy. It's a shame that the preservation of old games seems to have become the responsibility of pirates. But here we are. Yo ho ho. And in some late-breaking additions for this week, first off, we got for Diablo 3, the patch notes for the PTR, the test server for upcoming season 27, and it's looking like a big season. We got a season theme that introduces some sexy power creep, which I always say is important to do, not just power creep, but power creep that comes from interesting things. So items that can now roll with extra properties that are going to have some very powerful effects that are just here for the season, along with the other critical thing I feel needs to come with a season is some significant shakeups to the meta in the form of reworks to some underutilized classes. We even get some nerfs to some of the more powerful things and a number of buffs as well, and reworks to try to make more builds viable, different builds viable. It's looking like the tier list for next season is going to be quite different. I got a full video talking about the season theme. You can check that out over here. And on our last story, we just found out that Heroes of the Storm is getting StarCrafted. It's basically going into maintenance mode. The team says, quote, "Moving forward, we will support Heroes in a manner similar to our other long-standing games, StarCraft and StarCraft 2. In the future, we'll continue seasonal roles and hero rotations, and while the in-game shop will remain operational, there are no plans for new for-purchase content to be added. Future patches will primarily focus on client sustainability and bug fixing, with balance updates coming as needed." It's a shame. I really enjoyed Heroes of the Storm. It was my favorite MOBA. I played it for probably about a year. They were just late to the genre. The market had already become saturated. The big names had already muscled out all the competition. And it was just a day late and a dollar short. And that's going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out our last video in which we discussed Blizzard's acquisition of a new studio. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.